Good morning and welcome to the Standing Policy on Property and Development Appeals for this May 14th of 2025. My name is Councillor Evan Duncan. I am the Chair of Property Development Standing Policy Committee. I'm joined here today by Councillor Santos and Wyatt, also joined by members of the public service, including our Senior Committee Clerk, Ms. Cowan. We will get into our appeals hearings. It looks like we have 4 items. I'll turn it over to the clerk after I acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota people, and the national homelands of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 41st Nation in Treaty 3 territory.
In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal. Next, those registered or in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you will not be able to do so. Item 1 is an appeal under the Planning, Development, and Building Fees Bylaw number 66 of 2016 at 32 Todd Drive. You'd like a brief overview from the public service?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Good morning, councillors. This appeal is at 32 Todd Drive. It is a residential zone property. The applicant is the property owner, and the fee in question is $422. That was levied for work without permit related to an air conditioner having been replaced with a heat pump. The homeowner submitted an appeal to the fee waiver committee on the basis that they should not be held liable for a contractor's error. The department was on site. For a bit of background, the department was on site conducting an inspection for an unrelated electrical project, and during that inspection, the building inspector noted that a new heat pump had been installed, and when the records were examined, it was found that there was no permit for that work. The inspector issued a bylaw violation notice on June 4th, 2024, a copy of which is in the notes. The homeowner did take the required steps to obtain their permit quickly, and the work did pass final inspection. But because the matter was discovered essentially by the public service, the non-compliance fee of $422 was levied in addition to the required permit fees. The homeowner filed application to the fee waiver committee. As I said, they stated they should not be held liable for the contractor's error. And on review, the Winnipeg Building Bylaw and the Electrical Bylaw both have clauses that state in summary that permits are required for work prior to work being started. And the fee waiver committee held that the fee was applied correctly in accordance with relevant bylaws, and their appeal was denied. And that is the appeal that is before you today. The foundation for the appeal, based on the homeowner believing they should not be held liable for how their contractor performed or acted, as the case may be, or didn't act. That's a civil dispute between the homeowner and their contractor. Public service maintains the fee was correctly applied in accordance with council approved bylaws. Thank you.
Any questions for public service at this point in time? What was the work that was being inspected?
Originally,
That's what city attended?
it was other electrical work in the basement, I believe. Just pop it up.
It was for the electrical service, Kelly.
Thanks for it.
Electrical services.
The panel, yes, that's Mr. Gord Chuby, the chief.
Hi, Gord.
Good morning.
For purpose of dealing with this, I think it's somewhat punitive. I'm prepared to waive the fee right now.
I'd like to hear from the appellant, but I also wanted to know, can you just go over the part of your summary after it was discovered? They then what did the
department issued them a bylaw violation notice?
Yes.
And then they took the steps required to obtain the permit.
Okay. And did they pay for that permit?
They've paid for it. It's passed inspection and it's closed.
Okay. Okay. We'll move on. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so first we'll hear from the appellant, Lauren Chance, who's speaking in support of the appeal. Oh, just right at the end of the table there. Yep.
Great.
All right.
Morning.
Morning.
Just before you start, Councillor Wyatt did indicate that he'd be willing to move a motion at this point in time. However, I did want to provide you an opportunity to speak. Would you like to take that opportunity?
Sure, yeah, definitely.
please go ahead.
I think the issue was fairly well summarized by what was previously stated. Just for a little bit more context, in March of 2024, we hired a mechanical company to to replace our air conditioner with a heat pump. They had done really good work for us in the past. It was the only quote we got, and at no point was the permit discussed. Now, had we been moving walls or adding an addition and they said we don't need a permit, that would have raised some questions for us as homeowners. We went ahead with the work, and then as you said, on a different project where we did upfront obtain the required permits 2 months later, that's when it was discovered. Our contractor got involved to the best of their ability. They were prevented from actually pulling the permit because they were mechanical contractors and they were mechanical contractors, not electricians. So the city bylaw wouldn't allow them to pull the permit. I believe it was an honest error. The changes were made in 2022, to my understanding. They were not aware of it before. Based on our previous dealings with this contractor, I'm inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt. And they spoke to the inspector that was involved to try to work the issue out to the best of their ability. But ultimately it was referred up to the senior manager, and they were not able to pull the permit even though they had done the work. So then we submitted our application ourselves because that was the only other way to get the permit. But then we were told we weren't allowed to submit the application because we did not put the air conditioner, the heat pump in ourselves. So we were essentially left in permit limbo where the contractor who did it wasn't allowed to because of their specific designation, but we were not allowed to because we hadn't done the work, which would have had no business doing. We do not know anything about the trades. We hire people that we trust to do that work. Eventually, a really helpful city employee helped us work the issue out, allowed us to make the application ourselves, even though we hadn't put in the heat pump ourselves. And then we submitted the fee waiver, and you've summarized the issues quite well. The reason that we're here today after it was declined is because, if we had knowingly gone in purposely avoiding a permit, we wouldn't be here. We would have paid the fee and accepted the consequences. But in this case, I did review Section 5 of the Winnipeg Building Bylaw, as well as Section 2 of the Electrical Bylaw, and we feel that the application of those bylaws in this specific case are unreasonable and unfair for the average homeowner, given the project we're doing. So there was no additional ductwork. It was swapping one unit for another, putting in a heat pump where there was an air conditioner. It wasn't the type of thing that the average completely unknowledgeable homeowner would go, okay, I think I need a permit for this, different than the deck or the electrical work or things like that. At least that's how little I know about that sort of thing. Section 5 talks about the owner seeking all required permits, but it doesn't really speak to the owner hiring a separate contractor to do the work. And I did find the part in Section 2 of the Winnipeg Electrical Bylaw where it says, projects like an air conditioner, furnace replacement, heat pump isn't even mentioned there, would require a permit, but it's buried on page 33 of a 70-page document in the technical interpretation section, which again, I think speaks to the point that this is not something that I believe is required in terms of my due diligence as a homeowner to read a 70-page document when I was 7 months pregnant, just needing to get air conditioning in for the summer with a contractor we worked for before. So that is essentially a summary of the issue. We want our house to be done correctly. We want to get permits that are required. We want to be able to sell it with the proper permits in place. We're not the people really we feel like should be going after with this fee, given how it came about. And I suppose we could take the contractor to civil court. That doesn't sit right with me when I do believe it was an honest mistake. It doesn't really feel like the right solution. What to me feels like the most reasonable solution is the city, in this case, to waive the fee for the post permit.
Right, thank you. I don't at first glance see any questions for you. Therefore, I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
There is no one else registered to speak to this appeal, so just confirming that no one else in the gallery is looking to speak in support of or in opposition to this appeal. Okay. Technically, the applicant or the appellant has the opportunity for rebuttal, but
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
not sure if there's anything to, but it's up to you. Okay.
Councillor Wyatt, do you still have the appetite to move?
Yeah, I'll move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll
Opposed?
move
That's
that the
carried.
appeal be allowed. And the decision of the fee waiver committee be that the fee be canceled.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Can I just
Appeal
confirm? Oh, sorry, Councillor. Can I just confirm that the intention is to reduce the monetary fees from $422 to zero?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what I just said. And that the
Okay,
appeal
as
be
indicated by the
concluded.
clerk, all in favor? Aye.
The appeal be concluded.
Opposed? Carried. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That's concluded.
Please note that the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal.
Have a good day. Thank you. Next.
Item 2 is an appeal under the Planning, Development and Building Fees bylaw number 66 of 2016 at 79 Appleford Gate. Please note the process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. The appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, however, no new information is permitted. All participants via Zoom have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. Once you have been heard, you can either remain in the Zoom meeting or leave and continue to watch live via the city's YouTube channel. If any Zoom participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute the YouTube audio now. And the committee would like a brief overview from the public service.
Before we do have folks here to speak in support of the appeal.
For this, yes, the
Thank you.
appellant is
Okay.
here via Zoom.
Please.
Thank you, Councillor. This appeal is from 79 Appleford Gate. It is a residential zone property. The applicant is the property owner. The work in question surrounds finishing a basement, and during inspections that occurred in August and September of last year, the department found several deficiencies that required correcting. The homeowner did not have those defects corrected within 30 days as was directed and required, and non-compliance fees were added in October and November of 2024. After a conversation with the department, both of those fees were canceled as the owner had provided some rationale to the inspector on why that delay had occurred in correcting the defects. After the defects still not corrected by March of this year, a third non-compliance fee was imposed, which is the subject of today's appeal. The homeowner submitted an appeal to our fee waiver committee, and on April 1st, the committee rendered a decision that the appeal would be denied because the defects were still not corrected. However, the committee did allow that the fee would be reduced by half from $191 down to $95.50. And as of, well, currently I'm looking at the system here, those 4 deficiencies, they remain uncorrected despite feedback and reminder emails that have been sent to the owner by the department. In summary, the department has extended several courtesies to the homeowner over this permit and the work related to it. And we have canceled $364 in non-compliance fees thus far. Plus, we have reduced the latest fee from $191 down to $95.50. The public service maintains that the fees have been all correctly applied in accordance with council approved bylaws.
Thank you. Questions at this point? Moving on.
Seems like a low amount.
Seems
Talking about here.
accurate.
We reduced the amount by half. The original fee was $191, and we reduced it by half in further consideration to the homeowner who's doing the work themselves, and they'll have to explain problems that they've run into, but they have, and the department took that into consideration. The reason it's before the appeal today is because they're entitled to the appeal or for the committee.
So when you folks came in and initially applied a non-compliance, what was the fee at that time?
191.
$191. And we came back the second time, was it?
No, the initial two
non-compliances.
totaled $364, and those were completely canceled. They didn't even reach
How much there?
364.
364. And you folks waived that.
Why were those canceled?
That's because they're a non-compliance fee that's instituted by the inspector. The inspector has the wherewithal to cancel the fee. It doesn't come to the fee waiver committee. We weren't involved in that. That's just done as a in-house sort of a decision. Maybe Chief Chuby could speak more to it if you need to, but we canceled those ones, and then because there was a promise that the defects would get fixed, they're still not fixed to this as of right now. At least if they are fixed, they haven't been re-inspected. We have that much I can confirm. So,
So if you had to choose between 50% or no cancellation, what would you choose? Or cancellation total?
well, we decided on 50%.
No, let's say you couldn't choose 50%, either cancel or maintain. What would you choose?
The committee rendered its decision back on April 1st.
No, but the committee, but what would you?
That's not something that I'll comment on respectfully, Councillor.
Okay. We'll move on.
Okay, so first registered to speak in support of this appeal is Jorge Garza Guerra, who's joining us via Zoom today.
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Jorge. We're just asking you to turn on your video, but I think you've started it. If you'd like to turn on your video, we've just enabled it so you're able to.
I already tried, but it's not working. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we'll try one more time.
There we go.
Oh, I think it's working now.
My computer is a little, okay. Can you see me there?
Yes, you have up to 5 minutes for your presentation.
Yes, thank you. No, it's only going to take 1 minute. I really appreciate the time for speaking today. We are a family of 4. We live in 79 Apple 4 Gate. This is my first permit in all my life in this country. So the information that the officer was providing, it's a little bit inaccurate. We had a kind of rocky mountain, like a roller coaster experience with our process. We're just finishing our basement. We're doing everything by law. We're trying to do everything as the best of our knowledge. And what happened is that when I hired the electrician just to connect to the panel, he explained me that everything was okay. I said, you know what? They're requesting this and this and that, and I'm going to be transparent here. He said, oh, don't worry about it. The city or the inspection is just trying to get money from you. They're going to, give you this and that. They're going to give you a hard time. And I said, okay, everything is okay. And he said, yes. And I pay him. So it's what I have to fix. It's something that, it's not, there's no urgency or public safety risk or not attempt to break the rule. I've been misled on the renovation in so many ways. The first one that I experienced is that they want me to take out all the red tape from my previous, builder, I guess, and they want me to put it blue. So could you imagine all my basement has red tape for the insulation, and it was properly done and inspected and approved by whoever built the property. And then when I bought it, they come by and say, now you have to retape it blue. And I said, what are you talking about? I mean, it's already done. So it's been an experience. It's my first time. And, it's not the money, it's the action. Because as a family, I have 2 little ones. We're not trying to break the law, and we don't think we deserve a fine when we're trying to do everything by the book. If we're trying to get, smart and not do what we're supposed, okay, I understand. But there's nothing wrong here. We're very friendly. We're very cooperative. We're ready to do whatever we have to do. But I also read a little bit, and in Section 5, it says that this department, instead of fining the homeowners, they need to instruct and provide guidance and support. As simple as that, because this is my first permit and I never had any trouble before. So that's what I can say. It's a very simple request. We're trying to finish our basement. We need to change one thing, which is something in the panel that it was by code before a couple of years, but now it's changed. So I need to spend more money and buy that thing. And on my defense, I want to let you know that I personally reached to the office to request time, and it was granted. And that was not mentioned on the briefing of the gentleman that is speaking. I called them and I requested, we're gonna be traveling, we don't have the money right now, can you help us? Can you wait? And it was granted. They grant us time to do the repairs, so we're not violating any type of law intentionally. And I'm surprised that he's saying that these items are not fixed when he doesn't know. He doesn't even know if they're fixed or not. So I don't want, yeah, I mean, I'd seem a little bit irresponsible to say something like that because he doesn't know if we fix them or not, right? He hasn't re-inspected. And we didn't know that we're gonna get a fee or a fine or nothing, you know? So it's very simple. There's no safety risk. We're not doing anything wrong. We're here. I'm ready to do whatever it takes. But I just want a little bit of professionalism in the part of, you know, when they come here to my house.
Jorge, I'll just ask you, keep it professional here yourself. The city and the public service acts in a professional manner. If you don't feel like they're acting in a professional manner, I would encourage you to file with the city of Winnipeg and that department and not speak here on the public record, impugning their unprofessionalism. Thank you very much.
Yes, appreciate it. What I'm trying to say is that, well, we're being very cooperative, and maybe I would like a little bit more of transparency, you know, just to understand the process. And, you know, we're here. Sometimes they send people training.
So Will, to have an extension of time here, or that's your 5 minutes?
No, that's everything I need to say.
Oh,
Just
okay.
it's a very simple thing. I don't want to take your time away.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any questions here for the appellant? Yes, Councillor Santos has a question for you.
Yes.
So the current defects, are you still needing more time to finish the defects in your home?
I have some questions, but no, we don't need more time because we have already fixed them. But my question is just, I didn't know that they were gonna come and inspect, and if I don't pass, I was gonna get a fine. I didn't know that. So I just make an appointment so they can come and tell me what to do, and then I got the fine. And they say, well, you should do this and that. I say, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, but I don't understand because you're telling me one thing and the electrician is telling me something else. So
Okay, so then the second question, well, apparently they did issue 2 non-compliant. So you were issued 2 fines before, but then it was reversed and canceled.
yes, I don't really know what fine we're talking about here because
Well,
it's only one fine that I got,
Okay.
and that's the one.
You were given 2 fines for $364.
Senior Garza,
Mr. Garza, sorry.
Senior Garza.
Okay,
That's his first name, last name. The second name is the second last name.
okay. My apologies, Mr. Garza. You were given a fine of $364 in total. That was waived, is what Councillor Santos is referring to.
Yes, I'm not aware about that fine. We would never get a fine. We were working with a very, I will say, friendly inspector, and he guided us very well. So it really depends on the inspector that you get. We got one, and we moved very fast, and then we got another one. It was, you know, a lot of trouble, and then we got somebody that was in training, and then we got somebody different. So with the first gentleman, we were able to understand the process. So I don't have any 300 and something fine. Could you tell me what is that fine for? Because, you know, we're just renovating our basement. There's no, how can we get fined if we're asking for all the permits and we're doing everything that we have been told?
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. There don't appear to be any more questions at this point in time. Thank you very much.
Yes, appreciate it.
Just confirm, so no one else is registered to speak to this appeal, just confirming that no one in the gallery is looking to speak in opposition or in support of this appeal. Technically, the appellant is entitled to speak to in rebuttal to comments made. So
Applicant or from?
I'm prepared.
sure, if there are questions for the public service.
No, just on the clarity on the 2 non-compliances that were supposedly issued back in November, December. And then you said in-house, there was an in-house decision to reverse those, right, and cancel them.
Correct.
Okay, and you're saying that's done through the inspectors?
Yes.
Okay. And then they came back in March to review and the defects were not done. And then a third non-compliance was issued.
Right.
Okay. Right. And that's the fee that's in question.
Yes.
Okay.
Half of,
Half of the fee.
Half
Yeah,
of it.
the decision was to
so in
reduce
March,
it.
it was $191, fee waiver, committee cut it in half.
Is that done through the inspector himself or is that done through the fee waiver?
The reduction was the fee waiver committee decision.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll move a motion if you wish, Mr. Chairperson.
sorry, he has an opportunity to rebut now that we've provided more information.
Yes. So Jorge, you have the opportunity to rebut comments made that you've heard, but no new information is permitted. You have up to 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Well, no, I just want to add that we contact the city permits and we requested time. I don't know what else to do. We personally pick up the phone and say, you know what, this is the deal. How can we do it? And we requested the proper time to extend a little bit more of time. And so I don't know how we can not comply when we requested time and it was granted. And it was only, to fix this item that it was instructed. But nobody mentioned that if we fail to do this or that, we're going to get a fine. The reason that we take permits is not to get fined. So if we are taking the time to place a permit and ask for a permit, how can we get fined? That's my, confusion here. And like I said, it's not the money. It's just about understanding because this is my first permit. I had never put a permit before. So I'm not a person that, usually don't succeed on a project. So if I'm doing a basement and I pull a permit and I request time, how can I get fined? That's my idea of especially when I'm willing to do the best on my knowledge, everything that I have to do, right? So we're here in the understanding that I want to do and follow the process, but I also don't feel like a fine is going to help me in any way or form because we're not trying to break the law.
Jorge, just a quick question for you on those statements. So right now, yes or no, your work is all completed?
Yes, on the best of my knowledge, and the plumber
Okay,
that I hire and the electrician, they say, yes, this is a pass. If they don't pass you, they're giving you, that's what they told me. I'm sorry. They told me they just want to give you a hard time. I said, well, tell me what I can do.
I hear you. So you're saying all the work is done, yes? So you're asking for more time. What do you need more time for?
No, I was asking for more time because we were traveling, so I was not able to do it. But
Okay.
then they came by and they say, it's all about an RFI or RC. I don't remember the name, but there's a circuit breaker that it has to be now by code. A different. So I have 20 of those circuits on my panel, but now it has to be a different one.
Okay, so you don't need any more time. All the work is done. Okay, I just want the committee to be aware of all the facts here. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairperson,
Councilor Wyatt,
I'll move that receipt of public representations be concluded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move that the appeal be allowed and that the decision of the fee waiver committee of the property and development department be canceled and that the entire fee be waived. And I would like to thank Senor Garcia for his presentation and his patience. 3 stated the cities ago, the mayor promised to make a system more customer service friendly in the city all across the board. Nothing has occurred by and large. I talk to contractors all the time. The system is Byzantine at the best. And for homeowners to try to figure out how to maneuver it, it's not a user-friendly system and it's not presented as such. So I definitely have sympathy for Senior Garza. So I'd like to move that.
Questions, all in favor?
Can I just clarify, Councillor White, you're moving that the monetary fees be reduced from 191, which is the original.
I want it wiped out.
To zero?
Zero. All in favor?
Aye. Appeal be canceled.
Opposed? You're reported in opposition. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just need to get a glass of water. Who said the next thing to go?
Please note that the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal.
And we will allow for a brief 2-minute break here, and we'll hear from our final appellants. Can I ask now, before we take the break, are we hearing this as one combined item, or do we need Councillor Wyatt here as well for that? Okay, we'll wait. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development Appeals Committee hearings. We are on item number 3. At this point in time, I'd like to see if there's consensus amongst the committee to hear items 3 and 4 combined.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then we will move forward considering items 3 and 4. Madam Clerk.
Okay, item 3 is an appeal under the vacant building bylaw number 79 of 2010 at 71 Maryland Street. The appellant and the committee have indicated their support to hear item 4 at the same time, as well as it's the adjacent properties and the same appellant, same property owner. So item 4 is an appeal under the vacant building bylaw number 79 of 2010 at 73 Maryland Street. The process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support, those in opposition, and those registered for information. And finally, the appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. The committee would like a brief overview from the public service.
Please.
Good morning. I'm Corey Burgess. I'm the Acting Administrative Coordinator for Licensing and Bylaw Enforcement. There are 2 orders being appealed today. Both are boarding orders issued to the same owner, one for 71 Maryland Street and the second for 73 Maryland Street. I'll provide an overview of both at this time. However, they represent 2 issues for your consideration. The Vacant Buildings Bylaw 79/2010 was established to regulate the condition of vacant buildings and discourage boardings. As the committee is aware, this is done for the safety of first responders and the community's safety and well-being. Most service requests for licensing and bylaw enforcement are complaint-based and respond to community concerns about a vacant building received through 311, or as referrals from other agencies such as the Winnipeg Fire Department. When a building is deemed to be vacant, an information package is sent to the owner identified by the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation. This information package informs the owner that the building is deemed vacant and subject to the vacant building bylaw. The brochure on the vacant building bylaw and all associated fees and contact information for our office are also included. Bylaw enforcement officers are required to inspect vacant buildings regularly, at least once per year. Officers will inspect the interior and exterior of the vacant building. These inspections identify if owners are meeting their obligations to maintain minimum property standards as outlined in Schedule A of the vacant buildings bylaw. Once a building has been deemed vacant, owners have up to 1 month to establish communication and respond to our notice. After this time, officers will schedule an inspection and proceed with enforcement. Officers who attend a vacant building inspection assess conditions for bylaw violations and issue compliance orders. It's important to note all notifications and orders are sent in writing to the address provided by the owner to the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation Department and or the corporation's office for the province. All orders are provided in writing and are served to the property owner via registered mail following the Winnipeg Charter and the bylaw. Owners are responsible for retrieving their mail and complying with the orders. Orders are deemed legally served after 3 days. All compliance orders include the officer's name, a direct phone number, and an email address. The order also has contact information for the general line for for licensing and bylaw enforcement service. And this information is provided to facilitate communication directly between the owner and the bylaw enforcement officer. Officers will attend the property after the compliance date to confirm that the conditions outlined are corrected and the property complies with the bylaw. When conditions are not compliant, the officer will begin the enforcement process, including possible fines, fees, and in some cases, remediation. The bylaw intends to ensure owners maintain their property to avoid unnecessary risks to first responders and the community. Specific to these properties, LBE received a community complaint via 311 for 71 Maryland Street, indicating that the vacant building had been broken into and the back door was left open and accessible. Officers responded to that request for service on March 24th of 2025. Officers observed the property partially boarded, not in compliance with the bylaw, observed the back door on the right-hand side, The board had been breached and cut open. The door was open and accessible. We also observed garbage on the property, including but not limited to mattresses, box springs, loose litter, and rubbish. Subsequent to the finding, WPS was notified of the break and enter, and LBE identified orders for the owners to bring the property to compliance with vacant security and litter garbage. While the officer was on site attending to 71 Maryland, they observed 73 Maryland was also a boarded up vacant building, and subsequently enforcement of that was also initiated. Licensing and bylaw enforcement's involvement was a direct result of the conditions of the property. LBE is aware of the owners of both these properties and a neighboring property have initiated applications with PP&D for redevelopment. Specifically, there's a development application that was submitted August of 2024. LBE is aware of the owner's intent. However, at this time, there is no application that would lead to a demolition permit or a build permit for these properties. The conditions of the vacant properties must be maintained and the impact on the community and emergency responders mitigated by compliance with the standards in the vacant buildings bylaw. LBE remains committed to working with an owner when or if a property is imminently about to be demolished. We encourage the owners to reach out to us when permits are issued. That's it. Thank you.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Questions at this time?
Okay, so you had mentioned, so back up a little bit at the last part about a development application was done in August 2024. However, there was no application for demo or build, so I'm kind of confused there.
We can see, we share a system with PP&D and we can see that a development application was submitted.
Okay,
But at this time, there's no indication that there's a demolition permit. As
Okay.
part of that application, they're going through a process
gotcha.
which would see, and I'm not my place to speak to it, but it appears they're looking to combine several lots.
Okay,
That
got
would
it.
certainly be something that no one could speak to.
Okay, and so, right now, it's partially boarded up is your guys' opinions. I'm just looking at the photos in the exhibits of both the properties. Specifically 71 Maryland here, I believe it's like exhibit 4, I believe that's where all the photos were taken as of March 24, 2025. So the boards that I'm seeing right now is not in compliance or is in compliance? Like, I'm not seeing where it's partially boarded, I guess is what I'm trying to get clarity on.
There are boards in place, but they are not compliant with the standards of Schedule B.
Okay, which is the thickness of the board,
Thickness
right?
of the boards, 2x4s, the type of screws, spacing of screws.
Okay. At any point in time, maybe the appellant could come up and speak to, did they mention when they boarded up the property? Did it mention when? Was it prior to the new bylaws being enforced or?
We don't know how long it was vacant or boarded prior to our engagement on March
Okay.
24th.
Gotcha. Okay,
Just on that note, Counselor, prior to regardless, there is some sort of leeway if the building remains boarded. As it's been stated by Corey, that we had to attend via complaint and a breach. Once it's breached, it is required to be boarded in the most current standard.
and that's similar with 73 Maryland Street. Okay. I do note that the basement looks like they just used regular plywood. Okay, and then I'm just looking at the other one. I don't have any other questions. Thanks.
Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move on.
Okay, so first we'll hear from the appellant, Caden Reimer, who's with us in the gallery today. Caden? Sure. Do you wish to speak together?
No, Leon can speak for me.
Oh, okay. All right. So Leon Reimer will be speaking on behalf of the appellant in support of the appeal.
Morning. Good morning. Thank you for your time.
I can't hear you, Dr. Malone. All right.
Go ahead. Okay. So we purchased 5 properties in a row on Maryland. Prior to that, about 70 years ago, we purchased 5 properties from Westminster all the way going south, and we tore 3 houses down there, which were basically derelict as well, and we built an apartment block. Then we proceeded to buy the next 5 properties beside, and we want to build another apartment block there. And so we currently own 69, 71, 73, 75, and 77 Maryland. And last August, we applied to amalgamate the properties and to rezone it so we could build an apartment block. The planner is completely in favor of the concept, and our hearing is June 24th, next month. So it took almost a year to get a hearing to do this. We thought it would go much quicker, but it did take longer. When we purchased the properties, we had tenants in there, and so they were occupied. We wanted to keep the tenants in there until we wanted to demolish them so that we had some revenue from the property to carry it. Then in January of 2024, the sewer line collapsed underneath Maryland, which services these 2 houses. And when we inquired on fixing it, the plumber we hired said that it's on city property, it's their service before ours, so the city would repair the sewer line. Then when we applied for that, they said that if we lived in the house, the city would cover the cost of repairing the sewer, but because it was a revenue property, it was our responsibility to pay for the service and repairing the service. I was very tempted at that point to move into the house, but I didn't. And the cost was around $75,000 to fix the sewer line, and it would have shut down Maryland for, the contractor said, 3 to 4 weeks. And because we're planning to demolish the buildings, we thought we're not going to pay for that fix. We'll just pay for the sewer when we do our new building. It's going to be a totally different sewer hookup. So we had the tenants move out as there's no sewer to the buildings. We cut all services to the houses, and we did board them up at that time. We had experienced that because when we owned the property adjacent to where the apartment building is, we'd done the same thing there. We were notified of the break-in, and so we went and we fixed the plywood, and we got the papers for how to board it up properly. We're expecting a hearing at any time in March. And so the planner said we'd probably get in April. So we thought, well, we'll just apply for the demolition permit. We'll take care of all at once because we'd like to demolish those houses. And now we have the hearing in June. The moment we get approval of the amalgamation and the rezoning, I'd like to tear the houses down. I haven't applied for that permit because I need to, I'm not going to tear them down until I know that's the road I'm going to build an apartment there. And so as far as the garbage and the mattress and such, we're there at least once a week cleaning stuff up. It's hard to keep up with the amount of people that want to sleep on the property, but we try very hard because we own the apartment next door. We want this to look clean and taken care of as well because it affects our property. So we would like to just really tear down the buildings.
You can finish if you want, and we'll do questions after.
Okay, I think that's everything.
Okay. Councilor Wyatt has a question.
So how much time do you need?
If the hearing's in June, I'd apply for a permit for demolition. If I'm assuming we'll get approval on that because it's
This is a rezoning hearing.
rezoning and amalgamation of the 5
Right,
properties.
so subdivision consolidation of the lots.
Yeah.
Rezoning. And then you're gonna go in June to community committee,
Yeah.
which then has to go to the standing committee, which then has to go to council, so probably not till July,
Mhm.
if you're lucky in terms of the timing. And as long as there's no hiccups in the hearing, because hearings can sometimes have issues and the slate will be laid over twice. Have you talked to the neighbors?
Yes, and we own the house next door, and we have talked to the neighbors as well.
But typically, I always say that, somebody will come out in opposition.
Yeah.
Right, second coming of Christ, somebody will be in opposition.
Yeah.
So, I guess my question is, if we said in September, October, would that be safer?
Yes, that would be safer.
Okay.
And you're right about opposition. On the first apartment, not only did a lady appeal the decision, when we won the appeal, she actually took the city to court, and we had to lawyer up, and she tried to sue the city for not following their own laws, which she lost. So that was an interesting experience.
You can't predict it. Hopefully that won't be the problem. But, if we laid it over until October, that would give you enough time to know what you're clear. We also now have a process where they can file a petition to the municipal board.
Yes.
And there's that, so it can be revisited then, as long as it's boarded up now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I don't have any issue with that.
And we plan to keep it boarded up. We don't want anyone in there. There's
Yeah, sure enough. Thank you for your investment in the neighborhood.
Councilor Santos?
There's obviously new standards to boarding.
Yeah.
Because of certain situations that you're experiencing right now. It, when you have heavier duty boards and screws, it's definitely a lot more difficult for vagrant behavior people to break in.
Yeah.
Are you willing to change some of your boards out, maybe on the bottom portion of your home to more of the heftier boards until September, October, November, or whenever you're foreseeing the demo permits might?
Yes, I'll be willing to in the next couple of weeks inspect those, and if there's something we can do a better job with securing it, I'd absolutely be willing to do that. I don't want phone calls that it's been broken into, so I'm interested in that, yes. That serves my interests as well, so that makes it easy to comply then.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation. I just have a couple points here. So unfortunately, we're not here today for your future development of the site. We're here today because you're not compliant with the boarding standards.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that you are currently not compliant with the boarding standard. That's correct?
That's correct.
So that's great. I look forward to hearing your application when it comes to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development. However, we have to deal with the boarding of the building and not just some windows, all windows and entrances. So that's what we're here to speak to and to make a decision on.
And all windows have been boarded up and they were painted white as well. When we did it originally, I just looked at what other buildings, what they had done. And so we attempted to do the same thing, weren't aware of all the steps. So we had boarded it up on our own, trying to emulate how others had done theirs, not realizing the standard of.
So was it communicated to you at any point in time what the standard was?
When we got the bylaw enforcement notice, then it was, yes.
And when was that?
I'm sure the bylaw officer.
How much time do you need for that? Boarding up properly.
You said you would do it in a couple of weeks.
I'm just wondering. How much time do you need to board it properly?
I'd say give me a month and it would be done.
2 weeks?
Yeah. If that's what you want me to do on the main floor, then yeah. I would request we do it on the main floor then and not on the second floor, so those are boarded up and those aren't a problem.
I appreciate that ask. Unfortunately, we have a policy in place here that requires it all, but I can review that with the public service. Is there any other questions for the appellant?
Could I have more time for the second floor then? A few months for those?
Second floor, how many windows are we talking about?
6 per building? 8 per building?
How many?
8 per building is
How many buildings are there?
2 houses.
Oh, 16. Like, Brad, 2 weeks.
Okay, so your question is around timing to get everything done, and the appellant is requesting 2 weeks for the main floor, but
Extension of time on it.
we'll consider that request then. Is there any other questions at this point in time? You will have an opportunity to come back as you've seen, as we've gone through to add rebut.
Somebody
Okay.
complained while you're here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Caden, did you wish to speak in support of the appeal or no?
I support the deal.
Okay. Okay, just noting that there's no one else in the gallery or on Zoom in support of or in opposition to this appeal. So if there are questions for the public service.
Yes, I believe I have questions, but I'll allow my committee members if you'd like to go
I
first.
don't have any questions.
Okay, so we are here to hear the appeal about the proper boarding, correct?
Correct,
So the building is not boarded properly to the standard.
correct.
Okay. Is there any world where you guys allow these vacant buildings to be boarded some on main floors and second floors, or is it just do it all?
It's in compliance to the bylaw. The bylaw is very specific on, if there's a violation, and it has very strict, guidelines on how to do that.
So from the department standpoint, enforcement, do you connect these folks with people who could do this in a short order to board it, or is that not your role?
That's not our role, no, unfortunately.
I
Have
guess
to reglaze every window or board every window.
Correct. Either or.
And I'm sure they're not gonna reglaze if they're not.
I'm assuming they will not be glazing windows.
Just help me, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
So just the timing on doing this boarding, the appellant is asking for more time to board. When you folks come and enforce, typically what is the turnaround in board it and when it's actually boarded, when the order is given?
Compliance with these types of orders is generally 14 to 17 days. And we would have it boarded within 25 to 30. So the orders were issued March 25th. Compliance date was April 9th. We're now middle of May.
So if this committee today directed them, I don't know how this would work, but and I don't want to get ahead of my committee members' intent here, but to give direction, Madam Clerk, how does that work with the motion?
We hold the decision, but we grant extra time.
The committee can grant an extension of time to come into compliance with the order.
Okay, good. Makes sense to me. Anybody else questions for the public service?
That's what I
Okay.
wanted, was the time.
Great. Okay, I'll hand it back over to the clerk to do this formally.
Okay, so the applicant, Leon Reimer, is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made if you wish, but no new information is permitted. Would you? No? Okay.
Indicating no. Okay,
I'll move, I guess, one item at a time, Madam Clerk.
Yes, please.
Okay, I guess,
so appeal number, item 3,
I'll move that the public representation, right, correct, be concluded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried.
I'll move that the appeal be allowed in part in light of the public service saying that up to 17 days, I'll use the number 17. I heard 2 weeks to 17, right? So
The actual boarding though, Mr. Burgess, is how long does it typically take to board?
Well, that depends on whether the owners are compliant and do it themselves or whether we have to do it.
Okay,
We would typically have it done in under 30 days
in
from the
under,
time it was discovered.
well, you know what? I'll grant 14 days to do it in light of what's going on in the inner city right now with fires going off all over the place.
Okay.
So,
clerk
you
wants to interject here if.
Sorry, no, I don't mean to
okay.
interject. Would you like to grant an extension of time of 14 days for compliance with the order dated
Right.
March 25th?
so I'm allowing
Okay.
you to part grant the extension of time, correct? Thank you. And the bylaw enforcement officer licensing and bylaw enforcement community services department be confirmed.
If you're granting an extension of time, you can simply, that can be the motion. So that an extension of time of 14 days for
Okay.
compliance with the order dated March 25th, issued by the bylaw enforcement officer regarding provisions of the vacant building bylaw.
All right, so better said than I can.
Okay, so just for clarity for myself, so that means that there will be no fines that are imposed at this point in time. 14-day clock will start, and then if that clock is met, then the fees and fine, or sorry, the penalties will be waived. Is that how this works?
No, the penalties are still there. They can appeal the penalties then.
Correct. So basically what my understanding of what happened is that council has approved the 14-day extension on the order. So absolutely no enforcement will happen. Well, after the 14 days, our officers will go out and re-inspect the property. If it's still in non-compliance, we will then start our process, which would be the process of boarding it on behalf of the property owner and charging that back to the property tax.
And if it is in compliance?
If it's in compliance, then the order is satisfied and there's no further enforcement on the part of the boarded building order. Also with the boarded building order in non-compliance, we can issue tickets, that sort of stuff. But yeah, so the 14-day, let's say grace period, there will be no action on our part with respect to that unless there's another break-in, the boards are,
Yes.
again, God forbid there's a fire, then
They
again,
want to get this done on the long weekend. They don't have a long weekend now.
Great, that's clarity to me. I'll call Councillor Wyatt's motion question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to move that the council, that the appeal be hearing be concluded.
All in favor? Aye.
I'll do the
Opposed?
same now with the next item.
The committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal.
Dealing with item number 4, I'll turn to Councillor Wyatt again.
Sure, I'll move that receive public representation be concluded.
All in favor? Aye.
Appeal be
Opposed?
allowed.
Carried.
I'll move that appeal be allowed in part.
That
14 days as per the previous clause.
an extension of time of 14 days be granted for compliance with the order.
Correct. That's read by the clerk. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And I'll move that the
Carried.
appeal be concluded.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's also carried.
I'll move adjournment.
Please note the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal.
Counselor.
And Counselor Wyatt moves adjournment. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the next regular scheduled standing policy committee on property and development.
Council.